Good morning. I hope everybody's having a good day. I hope everybody's looking forward to a good weekend. And if you're watching this and you were not in class and you're watching this when you're supposed to be, please make sure you get over to D2L and take the quiz. I believe I have it scheduled to go live at 10:15. And look, this is designed for people to see what my quizzes will look like. It's designed to for everybody to get 12 out of 12 because it's a sample quiz. It's designed for everybody to have, you know, points in the bank when everything averages out. And it's, should be relatively easy. It's supposed to go live at 10:15. Um, and we'll just kind of, hope everybody who's watching gets to that. If not, we'll work something else out. Talk to me when we next get together in class or shoot me an email. As this title side says, we're going to talk about the Shakespeare class student presentation overview. We have, I believe, 6 more plays left. I'll get some kind of sign up probably in class on Monday, and we'll just kind of go from there. So I want to just show you what the presentation is supposed to look like. This is going to be a pretty rough go through, but I think I just want people to kind of look at the play, understand that there are different ways of looking at the play, try to do a couple of the things that we've talked about, deal with the quotations, negotiate with some of Shakespeare's stuff uh, that were part of the times that weren't necessarily um, part of our times. Okay. The elements are sum up the drama in a 6-word story, cover the good, the great, the bad, and the ugly, comment on the quality of the work as a whole, not just plot details that you didn't like. All right. Last time I did this in one of my classes, a lot of people just commented on plot details that they didn't like. What is bad in the play itself? All right. List and explain the best quotation about in the drama. What literary theory would best be used to analyze and explain this drama? I will get to lit theories next week sometime. I'll do a quick presentation on those to just kind of explain the fact that there are a lot of different ways to look at a play, to look at literature in general, and which theories would best be used to analyze or explain it. Connect the drama to another drama, a novel, a movie, a song, poem, real life situation, food, anything else, and explain the connection. What part of the past was most difficult to negotiate with and why? And what's one thing Collis got wrong about the drama? 7 things. My 6-word story is noble Romans conspire, kill, talk, and die. I think that pretty much sums up everything. Certainly, it was a conspiracy to kill Caesar. Then there was Brutus kills himself. Portia dies. Cassius dies. Cinna the poet is killed. There's a lot of talk back and forth. There's some great speeches. I think this pretty much sums up the entire play, and I think there's a kind of a good discussion to be had on what exactly was a noble Roman. The good, the great, the bad, and the ugly. I have 2 columns here. The good and the great. Good is, I think this is an easy to follow play. It's a nice structure, beginning, middle, and end. We're not jumping around. The time shifts that Shakespeare sometimes conflates seem to be okay here. Certainly, it probably took a longer time for um, Lepidus and Antony and Octavian to get together than would have happened, than was shown in the play. But this is pretty easy. It's not like Othello, where we don't know how long Othello was out at sea, while Iago was able to, work his plan without Othello there. There's all sorts of stuff going on that, the time shift don't disrupt here. We don't have any cross-dressing. We don't have any confusion like that. It's easy to follow. I loved the comedy relief ever so often, especially with their, getting ready to scream and shout at each other, and the poet jumps in and does these bad rhymes. They're really, really horrendous. Um, the characterization of Antony and Casca, even though he was described as this dull person and the crude person, I thought the characterization was done well, and trying to explain what kind of person he was, I thought was done well. And Portia, I think, is a terrific character. Um, I wish Shakespeare would have been able to write at a time to give her more than he did here. The bad and the ugly, I don't think there's anything ugly in this play at all. But I do really wonder if Brutus really could have been as blind as he seems to have been here, to not see Antony as a threat, to uh, not see that Cassius was capable of flattering him, to not see that, yes, Caesar was already committing atrocities that could make him a totalitarian. Um, and was he, as a Stoic, really that blind to the fact that he's talking himself into an action that's not very prudent? Also, I think Cassius is a bit inconsistent. Okay. Caesar talks to him about, he's a lean and hungry look. He's dangerous. He's able to flatter Brutus into this conspiracy. He seems to be working for his own um, ends. And then Brutus is wrong about Antony, and Brutus is wrong about other stuff. And they have this big, long argument about you wronged me, no, you wronged me, no, you wronged me, you don't like me anymore. Like two, schoolgirls in seventh grade, or schoolboys in seventh grade for that matter. And yet, Cassius is right about the military strategy, and Brutus is wrong about the military strategy, and Cassius gives in. Cassius gives in every time, even though Brutus is wrong, wrong, wrong. And if he's got this lean and hungry look, and if he's shrewd, and if he's such a great conspirator, why does he so blind? And again, it's a tragedy. Tragedies are supposed to be preventable. Tragedies are supposed to make us think about the characters and their flaws. Just seems like it's a bit much. And like I said, there's really no ugly here. Key takeaways. I think Brutus is always about um, good intentions and character. And I think it's just the key takeaway that, his good character didn't save him because he too has flaws. And good character and personal virtue may never be enough because we're always flawed human beings. Passion and ambition are dangerous qualities when combined. Um, you know, Antony is showing that it's going to get him in trouble. Caesar is showing that it gets him killed. The crowd is easily swayed by passion, and they have this greed thing going on that's almost as bad as ambition. And I think human nature is consistent. Even though I wonder if Brutus and Cassius can be as blind or as inconsistent as they are, I think these characters are acting the way people in the 21st century act, and so I think that that's a key takeaway. And then, as my mouse pad says, all my wife's words are the truth. Brutus would have been better off if he'd listened to Portia. Caesar would have been better off if he listens to Calpurnia. By the way, my wife got this for me when she visited China. Uh, it's better than a T-shirt that says "My wife went to China and all I got was this dumb T-shirt." It's a mouse pad that reminds me that she is always right. The best quotation: Jan Cassius has a lean and hungry look. He thinks too much. Such men are dangerous. It certainly describes the character as far as the early part of the play. It sets up the irony in the play that Caesar sees him as dangerous, and yet Caesar's pride that he is more dangerous than danger itself, uh, is proves to be an irony that gets him killed. And I think this idea of being afraid of people who think too much. Um, I don't want to get too political, but it always frustrated me when our former governor here in South Dakota would make jokes about philosophy majors. I think philosophy and wisdom are important. There's books like The Death of Expertise, where people don't want to listen to those who are experts. They don't want to listen to people who think too much about a certain topic. And in fact, I think ever so often people who think too much are viewed as sort of being dangerous. It seems to me to be a character uh, trait for Cassius, and it seems to me to tie into the current era as well. So you can add tying into books like The Death of Expertise as a connection as well. Literary theory that would best fit the drama, I think there's two of them. Marxism, I think, would love this drama as the rich and powerful people, just use the poor as pawns. Antony gets the crowd all riled up with offers from about the will, and then tries to cut them off from the will. We also have situations where the the people up front, the rich and powerful, are trying to exert their will on them. Marxists might like how the cobbler and everybody else can poke fun at the rich and powerful, but at the very end of the play, the rich and powerful are still going to be in charge. The masses still aren't going to have much going on, and a Marxist, I think, would like analyzing that. Feminism would certainly want to look at the women who disappeared, the realism of showing the women constantly being ignored. I didn't put it on the slide, but I think the horrific death that Portia undergoes, they would certainly want to analyze why Portia wants to be a man, wants to act like a man, wants to contrast her man's might with, or man's mind with a woman's might. There's lots of stuff that feminists would sink their teeth into this play. They might not like the play, but there's certainly analysis that they would want to do on this play. The connection, when we get to Othello, we'll talk about Iago. And again, I think there's parts about the uh, faction from the Federalist Papers that I think are important here as we're splitting the country apart, and the crowd is being played for their emotion, and their passion leading to faction, I think, is key. And one of the reasons I try to do connections, and I just stumbled upon this on my Instagram feed. This is a guy who just writes a quotation with a fountain pen every day. And I think this F. Scott Fitzgerald quotation is kind of important. The beauty of literature. You discover that your longings are universal longings, and that you're not lonely and isolated from anyone. You belong. And I think people who don't read a lot sometimes miss that. I've given a lot of reasons why people should read. One of them, if you're just getting from the beginning to the end of the novel, is I think people read to be surprised. We keep turning the pages because there's suspense, and we get surprised a little bit. But I think also we're reading, and if we're reading a Jane Austen novel, we're part of a tradition that's hundreds of years old. Okay? If we're reading Shakespeare, we're part of a tradition that's hundreds of years old. And we're not isolated from anyone because, as I said earlier, these characters show that people are people. All right? And we haven't changed that much in the intervening years. Negotiating with the past, the difficulties of that, I think there's two. And again, Portia is a wonderful character, but the fact that she has to cut herself, and in the 21st century, cutting yourself has a whole list of other uh, problems with it. But the fact that she's using it as a source of pride and a source of strength, I believe the textbook had some commentary about, was she in effect castrating herself to show that women were just castrated men. Um, I don't know if that's the case, but I think she's negotiating with the past. This character disappears from the play, and that she is just seen as a dichotomy between harlot and wife and all of this other stuff that Shakespeare's putting in there, that I think Shakespeare's audience would have just said, yeah, that's the way it is, I think it's a little tougher for us to negotiate with. And then the dichotomy, supernatural and natural. A storm's a storm for us. Here it's a portent of terrible things happening to the country. I think that, you know, the Romans certainly would have seen the supernatural and everything. Every tree had a little nymph associated with it. The gods were in control of things in a way that even I think believers in Christianity or any other religion still look at the weather and say, okay, well, there was a front that mixed with another front and we got windy. It's a different view of the world. And I think negotiating that in a world where people still believed in witches, I think that's always something we're just going to have to deal with. Okay. And I'm not saying one's right and one's wrong. I'm saying it's the worldview that we've been imbued with has to negotiate with that worldview of Shakespeare's time. What's one thing Collins got wrong? I should have mentioned that, Shakespeare uh, had patrons. First of all, it was the Lord Chamberlain's men. That was, that he was writing the plays for the person who had the title Lord Chamberlain, which again meant that you were supporting the royalty, you were supporting the king, you were part of, or the queen, and you were part of the, uh, everything had to make them happy because they paid the bills. Later, when it was the king's men, it was the same sort of thing. He's writing for King James, he's writing for the king. They're the ones paying the bills. And I think when you see the idea of Caesar becoming a king, Shakespeare's audience would have thought that that was the right thing to do. They would have been horrified at the assassination of a king. And perhaps I should have put some of that context in. I'll think about context, historical context, a little bit more on a couple of the other plays, probably. I probably should have done that here a little bit more. Okay. That's basically the presentation. Remember to run through and get the quiz, and we're just going to kind of go from there. Once again, have a good weekend, and hope to see everybody in class on Monday.